Today's book is The Black Bull of Norroway, a Scottish tale. Long ago in Norway there lived a widow with 3 daughters. One dark night, the sisters began to talk about marriage. The eldest one said, "I will have no one lower than an earl, and he must own a beautiful castle." The second one said, "I will have no one lower than a lord, and he must have a very large mansion." Peggy Ann, the youngest and merriest, tossed her long braids and said, "I don't care what title he has or how wealthy he is. I only want him to be kind and good and to love me. I'd even be content with the Black Bull of Norroway." Her sisters were horrified, for the Black Bull of Norroway was known to be a monster. But 3 times Peggy Ann repeated that she would be content with the Black Bull of Norroway. Now the day came when the eldest daughter said to her mother, "Mother, bake me a bannock and roast me a collop, for I am off to seek my fortune." A bannock is a flat cake made of oatmeal, and a collop is a few slices of bacon or ham. Her mother did so, and the daughter went to the wise woman. The wise woman told her to look out the back door and see what she could see. A coach with 6 horses was coming down the road. "Well," said the wise woman, "the coach has come for you." Soon after, the second daughter said to her mother, "Mother, bake me a bannock and roast me a collop, for I am off to seek my fortune." Her mother did so, and the girl went to see the wise woman. She too was told to look out the back door. This time the coach with 4 horses was coming down the road. "That coach has come for you," said the wise woman. Finally, the day came when Peggy Ann asked her mother to bake her a bannock and roast her a collop, for she was off to seek her fortune. "You too, my youngest?" her mother said, but she gave her the food and kissed her goodbye. Peggy Ann went to see the wise woman and was told to look out the back door. What she saw was a black bull charging down the road. When he had reached the house, he stopped and waited. "He's waiting for you," said the wise woman. Peggy Ann was terrified. She remembered what she had said about being content with the Black Bull of Norroway. The wise woman took her out to the bull and helped her climb on his broad back. "Hold on to my horn with one hand," said the bull. Slowly he trotted away. They traveled on and on. Always the bull chose the smoothest paths and easiest roads, until at last Peggy Ann grew less afraid of him. After a time she became quite faint with hunger. The bull spoke to her in a quiet voice, saying, "Eat out of my right ear and drink out of my left ear, and set aside whatever is left." Yes, you heard right. She did as he said and felt much better. Yeah, I think that's where it would end for me. Eat out of my ear. No thanks. At last they arrived at a mysterious castle. "This is where we will spend the night, for my eldest brother lives here," said the bull. Servants came out and lifted Peggy Ann off the bull's back. They led the bull to a field and took Peggy Ann to the castle. She was given a fine dinner and a soft bed on which to sleep. The next morning, when she was once again seated on the bull's back, the eldest brother gave Peggy Ann a gleaming red case and in the shape of a round apple. "Do not open the gold clasp," he said, "unless your heart is like to break, and then to break again." Peggy Ann and the bull traveled on. and always the bull chose the smoothest paths and the easiest roads. When they had traveled far, farther than the day before, they came in sight of another castle high on a hill. "This is where we will spend the night," said the bull, "for my second brother lives here." Many lords and ladies were guests at the castle. Peggy Ann and the bull were received cordially, just as they had been at the other brother's castle. When Peggy Ann was lifted from the bull's back this time, she asked that the bull be allowed to stay in the stable. A magnificent banquet had been prepared, and later Peggy Ann was shown to a chamber with a huge bed surrounded by richly brocaded curtains. In the morning, the second brother presented Peggy Ann with a golden case in the shape of a perfect pear. "Do not open the golden clasp unless your heart is like to break, and then to break again," he told her. Peggy Ann and the bull traveled on and on. The bull trod the brambles underfoot and chose the smoothest paths, and Peggy Ann ate out of his right ear and drank out of his left. The bull grew tired and began limping. Just as the sun was setting, they came to a smaller castle. "Here we will stay," said the bull, "for my youngest brother lives here." The servants lifted Peggy Ann down. "Wait," she said. "I must look at the bull's feet to see why he limps." She soon found a large thorn in one foot. The instant she pulled it out, the black bull vanished. In his place stood as handsome a young man as you're likely to see. He took Peggy Ann's hands in his and thanked her for breaking a cruel enchantment. Now he could tell her that he was the Duke of Norroway. A wicked witch wanted him to marry her daughter. When he had refused, she placed him under a spell. He would remain a bull until a beautiful maiden of her own free will did him a kindness, as Peggy Ann had just done. "But the danger is not over," he quickly added. "Only at night am I myself. I have to conquer the guardian of the glen, and then the spell will be broken forever." So the next morning, the handsome Duke of Norroway was again a black bull, but Peggy Ann gladly climbed on his back. Before they left, his youngest brother gave her a purple case in the shape of a round plum. "Do not open the gold clasp unless your heart is likely to break and then to break again," he said, and he wished them well. So they traveled on until they came to a dark and ugly glen surrounded by hills and mist-wrapped mountains. The bull stopped and told Peggy Ann to dismount and sit on a great rock. "Here you must stay while I fight the guardian of the glen," he said. "If everything around you turns blue, you will know that I have beaten my foe. But if all around you turns red, he will have conquered me. But mind you do not move a hand or foot while I am away, or I shall never find you again." And with a tremendous roaring bellow, the bull set off to find the guardian of the glen. Peggy Ann sat so still she hardly blinked. She waited and waited and waited. Then the mist rose and everything around her turned blue. Peggy Ann was so overcome with joy that she started to rise. She quickly remembered and sat down, but it was too late. The Duke of Norroway searched and searched, but he could not find her. Peggy Ann sat and waited and wept at her loss. The glen was dark except for one shining hill. "If I could climb to that hill, I could leave this glen," she thought. "If the Duke of Norroway can't find me, perhaps I can find him." But when she started to climb, she slipped and slid backward. She tried again and again, but it was as if the hill were made of glass. Peggy Ann decided to try to walk around it. She walked until she came to a smithy. The blacksmith promised her that if she would work for him for 7 years, he would make her a pair of iron shoes with spiked soles to help her climb the glassy hill. For 7 years she cooked and washed and swept and spun. At the end of 7 long years, the blacksmith gave her the iron shoes and told her that the Duke of Norroway's castle was just over the hill. When Peggy Ann reached the other side of the hill, she came to a cottage. Though she did not know it, the cottage belonged to the witch who had cast the spell on the Duke of Norroway. Now the witch was disguised as a washerwoman. "It's a good thing you've come," she said to Peggy Ann. "A handsome man left a bloody shirt here, and he promised that whoever could wash it clean would be his bride. Both my daughter and I have tried, but the stains only become worse. Perhaps you can do it." Peggy Ann did not know that the shirt belonged to her own Duke of Norroway. She begged to lie down and rest, but the washerwoman insisted that she wash the shirt first. The minute Peggy Ann dipped it in the water, the shirt became sparkling clean. "Now you can rest," said the washerwoman. She and her daughter took the shirt to the castle, and the washerwoman announced that her daughter had washed it. The Duke groaned when he saw his bride-to-be, but he kept his word and said he would marry her in 3 days. When Peggy Ann awoke, the washerwoman told her that the Duke of Norroway had agreed to marry her daughter. Peggy Ann's heart was like to break and then to break again. She remembered her red apple case and took it from her bag. She opened the clasp and saw a necklace of beautiful pearls. The washerwoman's daughter asked her what she would take for them. Peggy Ann quickly said, "They are not for sale, but I will give them to you if you let me sing outside the Duke's door tonight." The daughter longed for the pearls, and she agreed to the trade, but she immediately went to her mother and asked her to prepare a sleeping potion that she could give to the Duke so that he would not wake and hear Peggy Ann. All through the long night, Peggy Ann stood outside the Duke's door and sang and sobbed. 7 long years I have worked for thee, the glassy hill I climbed for thee, the bloody shirt I washed for thee, won't you come and speak to me?" But the Duke could neither hear nor see her, and he slept through the whole night. The next day, Peggy Ann knew not what to do. As her heart was like to break and then to break again, she pulled out the golden pear case and opened its clasp. There were jewels far richer than pearls, so this time she bargained for one night inside the Duke's room. Once again, the daughter asked her mother to prepare a sleeping potion for the Duke. Inside his room, Peggy Ann sang and sobbed. 7 long years I have worked for thee, the glassy hill I climbed for thee, the bloody shirt I washed for thee. Won't you please wake and speak to me?" But the Duke slept on. The next day the Duke was walking in his field and bemoaning his coming marriage. He chanced to meet his faithful shepherd, who mentioned all the singing and sobbing that he heard coming from the castle the night before. The Duke replied he had heard nothing, but vowed to stay awake the coming night. Peggy Ann was beside herself. Tomorrow was the Duke's wedding day. Once again her heart was like to break and to break again. She opened the purple plum case. She gasped at the brilliant diamond necklace inside. It was far more beautiful than the jewels of yesterday, and she easily bargained for one last night in the Duke's room. This time, when the washerwoman's daughter brought the Duke his sleeping potion, he asked her to fetch some honey to make it sweeter. While she was gone, he emptied the potion out the window and filled his mug with water from a pitcher. When she returned with the honey, she put it in the water and watched him drink it. She left quite satisfied that he would again sleep through the night. When Peggy Ann came into his room, the Duke appeared to be sound asleep. Quietly, she made her way across the room, sat down at his side, and softly began to sing. 7 long years I have worked for thee, The glassy hill I climbed for thee, the bloody shirt I washed for thee. O dear Duke of Norroway, won't you turn and speak to me? The Duke sprang up and clasped her in his arms. Then Peggy Ann told him all that had happened to her, and he told her all that had happened to him. They agreed to be married the very next day. When the witch washerwoman and her daughter realized that the Duke knew they had tricked him, they fled the country and were never seen again. And the Duke of Norroway and Peggy Ann lived happily ever after.